Unless you've been hiding under a rock, technology must be on your mind, specifically AI and the latest technologies we are all talking about. People thought Oliver Evans was crazy when he said this about the steam engine. I quote, "The time will come when people will travel in stages, moved by steam engines from one city to another almost as fast as birds can fly, 15 or 20 miles an hour." So to think, hundreds of years later, to now think of the steam engine as technology might feel a little bit ludicrous or even out of place. Today, we think about technology almost exclusively in terms of bits that carry information. So before we go too far, when I keep saying technology, what is technology? The definition that resonates the most to me is by the social scientist, Reed Bain. He says, and I quote, "Technology includes all tools, machines, utensils, weapons, instruments, housing, clothing, communicating and transporting devices, and the skills by which we produce and use them." The way I internalize that, it means technology is anything that extends the physical limits of our external and internal bodies. Anything from fire to the wheel to bow and arrow are all part of our technology. As our ancestors invented more technology, the very nature of humanity itself evolved we went from Homo sapiens to Homo faber, translates to man the maker. The invention of the wheel, for example, changed our relationship with our feet forever. We just use them less. Our brains today are smaller than that of our ancestors. We just don't need all that brain to store as much information. It changes us physically. We often overlook the internal extensions of our abilities using technology and how they shape our senses. What senses get sharper and what senses get duller. We used to be a society where the auditory experience was the primary way in which we understood the world. Then we invented writing and the alphabet. Now we do a lot less listening and a lot more reading of countless emails, SMS, social media posts, books, articles. We use our ears a lot less and our eyes a lot more to understand the world. It also means that there's a danger of seeing the world in more black and white, since we are reading it and using our eyes, at least more black and white than our ancestors did. The media philosopher Marshall McLuhan writes in his book, Gutenberg Galaxy, he writes, "The interiorization of the technology of the phonetic alphabet translates man from the magical world of the ear to the neutral visual world." So if technology is the extension of our body, why do we extend our bodies? Quite simply, we use technology to shield us from the harsh realities of the natural world so we are free to build the world we actually want. I think it's a little quixotic to talk about nature as though she is this peaceful and welcoming thing, when in fact the history of nature is every bit as violent as the history of humanity. Nature is downright nihilistic. If you are lucky, Mother Nature will bring your species floods, famine, fire. Worse yet, the fate of all species seems to be eventual extinction. So our ability to develop technology gives us a chance to fight back. Technology helps us play offense and defense by, yes, providing for us, but also shielding us from the harshness of nature. So is technology this savior? There's a story in Greek mythology where the great Prometheus, he stole fire from the gods so that he could bring it to humanity to advance mankind. So for his efforts, Zeus punishes him by sentencing him to be bound to this rock for a lifetime. And every night, an eagle will come and eat his liver, and his liver would grow back overnight, and the eagle will come back again, repeating the cycle for eternity. That was his reward for trying to bring a still fire and bring it to humanity. There's a lesson here in this allegory, if you want to call it that. It's a paradox of technology being the solution and also the problem. Yes, technology has lifted billions out of poverty, but the same technology left unchecked will destroy us. It has a tendency to overtake our very nature too fast. We become more biased, more dependent on it, and eventually it strips us of agency and end up with a version of humanity we never wanted. We need to be aware so we can dull the effects from technology that we do not want. There's a quote from the book The Human Condition by Anna Arendt, and she writes, "The new always happens against the overwhelming odds of statistical laws and their probability, which for all practical, everyday purposes amounts to certainty. The new, therefore, always appears in the guise of a miracle." Which brings me all the way back to this moment we're in. Yes, game-changing technology is probably here and more is on the way, which means it is inevitable that what it means to be human is changing. When does all of this materialize? I do not know. What I do know is it will fundamentally change us for the better and for the worse. That's it. As always, thoughts and criticisms are always welcome. I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to an Amos Talks production.